Hello there, Lake County Library. This is Christy Lewis from the Lakeport branch, and today I'm just introducing a No Lake County lecture presented by Families Together, which is a charity here in Lake County which connects just normal, everyday Lake County citizens with foster families and reunified families. And it connects just normal Lake County citizens who would like to help with families who are fostering children or are reunified after foster care. The mission of Families Together is just to make sure that every family has someone there who isn't paid to be there, which thank goodness for everybody who is paid to be there, but it's also nice to just have a friend sometimes. And the baseline giving that Families Together supports and trains its volunteers to give is 1 meal a month. So if that sounds like something you'd like to be involved in, please stay until the end and I'll let you know how you can get more involved. So please enjoy the following presentation by the founder of Families Together, Hope Forty, Mitchell DeVito, her colleague who went through the foster care system, and Karen Abrams, who experienced the Lake County foster care system.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of No Lake County. We're very thankful to the Lake County Library for inviting us to share, and especially to Christy for editing this up and putting it on the library YouTube channel. Christy is a volunteer with our program that we're going to be talking about. You've known her face from the library channel there, and if you don't know us, I'm Hope. You'll also see Karen Abrams on the computer and Mitchell DeVito on the screen as well. And they'll both introduce themselves to you. But the reason we're coming to you today is to talk about community engagement and how to support kids who need it most around Lake County. The reason this matters to me personally is because I personally grew up in Lake County. I moved there when I was 5, had a really beautiful childhood. On the lake, around the lake, great memories camping at Clear Lake State Park and going to the Pear Festival and just enjoying the life that Lake County has to offer for kids, just this beautiful, quiet, peaceful outdoor life. As I grew up, though, I noticed that a lot of my friends didn't have the same peaceful childhood that I had. You know, I think for every child, all 3 people on this screen believe, and everyone here at the Neighbors Program and Families Together believes that children need to know at the end of every single day they're loved, they're protected, they're safe. They don't need to worry about the big stuff because their adults in their life have that handled. And I was just noticing as I was entering high school and middle school that some of my friends didn't seem to have that peace. A lot of them were maybe living with a grandma, or their parent was recently incarcerated. As I was going, to community college classes at Mendo and things like that, I just started seeing that Lake County really does have a lot to offer in beauty and in peace and in community. It also has a lot of challenges that I think everyone watching this is aware of and is probably active in helping to support and solve. And so as being a very proud child of Lake County, as I grew up, I wanted to do something that supported kids like that and kids who didn't have the same peace in their childhood, and try to build that up for every kid out there. I noticed that we are really good at coming together as a community when there's a fire or when there's a big death or a cancer diagnosis. I remember people having spaghetti feeds or 4-H fundraisers or pancake breakfasts to make sure that nobody felt alone in their difficult times. And so I started something called the Neighbors Program, which you're going to be hearing about today. It really is there to make sure that kids and families, especially those in the foster care system or those at risk of becoming involved in the foster care system, don't feel alone. So they have a volunteer who's going to bring them something like dinner or help them with really the practical aspects of life that might feel really isolating. Here to share more about the realities of what can be an invisible problem, child welfare or foster care in Lake County and in California, is Mitchell DeVito. He's our program manager, and he's going to share some hard facts and some statistics about what we know about what's going on around the lake. And then we have Karen, and she's going to share her own story of being in foster care. Go ahead, Mitch.
Hey, thanks, Hope. So as Hope was saying, I'm Mitchell DeVito. I'm the program manager for Families Together for the Neighbor Program. I also happen to have grown up in the Colorado State foster care system, so I'm a former foster child myself. And so that's why this program really resonates to me. And so we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the statistics and norms for the foster care system in Lake County. There were 925 reported child victims of abuse and neglect in 2018. And so that is one child report for every 10 hours. There were 117 verified child victims of abuse and neglect. So those are large numbers. The vast majority of these children are removed for neglect. And nationally, for every child in formal foster care, we estimate another 5 children are living with grandparents, relatives, kinship type situations without any involvement in the foster care system. And so on any given day, there's 80 of Lake County's children in foster care. On average, as of March 2022, 68% of Lake County's kids in foster care go to local family, while 32% are sent out of county. And so some of these children are out of county in adoptive homes, sometimes relatives that are best suited to them. Lake County has the biggest barriers we see to kids reunifying with their parents are addiction, drugs, and alcohol, right? Especially with the increased availability of fentanyl. There's a lack of natural support systems, untreated mental health problems, lack of insight into problems that cause children to be removed, especially in a domestic violence type situation. And so that's generally the statistics and the norms for the Lake County area.
Yeah, thanks, Mitch.
You're
And I
welcome.
want to especially highlight that 68% of kids are staying in the county when they're being placed into foster care. That's something that when we started the Neighbors program, which you'll hear about in a minute, when we started working with Lake County, those numbers were lower. There were more kids being sent out of county, and there's been a really big concerted effort by everyone who works there and people outside of the formal system to keep those kids in their schools, in their homes, so that they have some comfort in the middle of what's a very traumatic situation. One of the people that I grew up with is Karen, who's here today. And when I was there, when I was out in Lake County a couple months ago doing a foster parent appreciation party, we ran into each other and she said, "Oh, that's interesting you're doing that because, you know, I was in foster care." She's one of the people who, in my mind, inspired this work because she fought through the system. She had some support and some difficult things in her life, and she is breaking the cycle for her children and the people in her circle. And I really admire that about her. So I asked her to come today and share because she was one of those kids years ago who was sent out of county. And I wanted her to share the story of what that feels like, because I don't think we enough take the time to listen to the kids' perspective. It's so easy to hear from professionals and trained people, but I want to hear from Karen. What was that like for you to be sent out of Lake County when you were in foster care?
Yeah, about being sent out of county to Fort Bragg, so that's Humboldt County. It was hurtful. I felt like I wasn't wanted, and it was rough because I was getting sent to a group home, not just like a home that had a foster mother with other like kids or her kids or their kids in general. It was a group home, so I felt like a lost cause because being sent to a group home, and I wasn't a problem child in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And it probably made you feel like you were.
Yes, definitely. And it was like being there in Fort Bragg, I hid in my room all the time because I didn't want to be there. I was like, I didn't feel wanted. I was just shoved upon this house in Fort Bragg.
Mm-hmm. And were you in a place where you really enjoyed your school and your friends? Was that when you were in Lake County, was that a comfort to you to have that every day?
Yeah, it was really nice being able to like lean on my friends that were there. And I was also really close to my brother that was also in foster care at the time. And I was relatively close to his also foster parents also. So I would see them from time to time, and seeing all my other friends and then just out of the blue moving was just like a culture shock, kind of like, it wasn't fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember a similar thing happened to me when I was placed. I was put into a group home first and then put into several different foster homes, all of which were far away from my original life. And a lot of the trouble for me was exactly what you were saying, Karen, was this idea of like, I kept running away to try to go back to see my friends, to go back to my life. Like I missed it so much. And being placed in the group home, like you said, instantly made me feel like I was a bad kid, right? So I started living up to that expectation. Well, if they're going to treat me this way, if they're going to label me as such, then you know what? I am going to start acting that way. So I think it's important to look at that cycle of what you're doing to kids by labeling them that way, by putting them in those situations.
Yeah, exactly. Because like it should be like a kid's own feelings should be brought into this And they should probably ask, how does this kid feel? Like, how do you feel about getting sent out of county, away from all your friends, your family? Like, they should be considered.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and part of the reason that we started this program was because I was a foster mom starting when I was, I think, 23. And I just realized how intense, and part of the reason I became a foster mom was because I saw these things happening in Lake County growing up. And I think that kind of ignited something in me to be like, I want to do something about this. And I feel like the home can be such a healing place, and it can also be such a damaging place if it's not the right home. And so I had a lot of friends saying, like, we want to do something to help these kids, but we can't be foster parents right now for whatever reason. It's a big commitment. And I appreciate that people know their limits, because we don't want to let kids down further. But I wanted to give a simpler way for people to get involved if they wanted to. And so it's for kids that are like where Karen was, say 20 years ago. I don't actually know, but I'm assuming, 20, 15 years ago. For kids like that, like people around the lake saying, we want to make sure that they don't feel alone. We want to make sure that if they have a great foster home, that we keep that foster home going. Karen, did you have any foster homes that you really appreciated? And you had told me about your brother's foster parents. Like, what was it about them that really made it a great place?
I loved them. They made you feel like you were one of their kids. They treated you that way. They treated you with love and respect. And like it was great. It was just, you felt that loving feeling in that family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you went to family too. So that was nice.
Yeah. And how can we expect kids to grow up and then make their own healthy families if they don't know what that feels like? It's going to be so much harder.
Yeah, and I was in several different foster homes, and one of them, Karen, like you're talking about with your brother's foster home, they allowed me to be as normal as possible, right? I got to be on the football team. I got to skateboard with my friends. I got to go to birthday parties. Like, I got to do the normal things. And so I remember that home very fondly, as opposed to the other one where I was sent, where the courts were used as a punishment system. I wasn't allowed to be a part of groups. I wasn't allowed to be on the football team. Like, I was literally treated like, I thought about this the other day. It literally felt like I was incarcerated, right? When I wasn't physically in a jail or anything, but it felt like I was a part of the system and that I was totally different than other kids. It felt like incarceration to me, so it's important to focus on those foster parents, to talk about those foster parents who are able to treat their foster children just like a normal kid would be, right? Those are the ones that we remember fondly.
Oh yeah, I still remember mine fondly because I actually still keep in contact with that foster family. They're not foster parents anymore, but I bought the house off of them that I'm living in right now.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and so him and I also connect over cars. I bought a car off of him, so like it's like that nice feeling, like that. I consider him my dad, and they know that. So I constantly see them still to this day. And so like it feels great just being known that I was part of their family, and through these years I'm still a part of that family.
Yeah, that's such an amazing feeling. And that's why we have this program. That's why we created the Neighbor program, is to support families like that, to support foster parents who are like that, because we know they're out there. There's a lot of them in Lake County. And
yeah, we've met a lot of them by now. They're really inspiring people.
And in order to keep them going, you have to give them support, right? Those are the ones that we want to make sure continue to be foster parents, to have those relationships. And so it's real important to give them that support.
Yeah. And we often hear from our volunteers too, that they feel like because they've had this experience with a foster family, maybe just bringing dinner once a month to them or doing laundry once a week for them, that they then kind of have a view into, okay, this is not just an invisible problem anymore, that's someone else's deal. This is something I can be involved in. And maybe someday I'll be ready to be a foster parent, or maybe someday I'll be ready to be a court advocate or something for a kid like this, because as like you're saying, like it makes all the difference, I think, to keep us going through life when it's really hard. And you can't even, if you had a childhood where you couldn't even picture what a healthy family looked like. I'm not saying you didn't, but a lot of kids that we work with, well, they just can't, they don't have a model for it. So of course they're going to struggle when they're 18, 19, 20, 30, and having kid after kid and wanting to keep them out of foster care. So So I'll just tell a little bit more about the specifics of the program so that if people are interested and inspired by what Mitch and Karen have shared here to support kids just like who they were 15 years ago, and kids who are just, they are normal kids. They've just been labeled. They've been put in a system that that doesn't always have the capacity to give them the childhood they deserve and need. So basically what we do with the Neighbors program is, like I mentioned before, we match one person around the lake with a foster family, or a sometimes an adoptive family, or a family who's raising their grandkids or their nieces and nephews. That's very common and something that's often really good for kids. And so we match them and we train them when we background check them, and we say, would you like to bring dinner once a month? Would you like to provide some stability and just lighten the load and help the kids feel seen and help that caregiver feel like this is a task that I'm not alone in? And we really are fighting a burnout rate with foster parents. Great foster parents, like what I know Mitch and Karen have experienced sometimes, are not always the norm. And so we want to keep them going. We want to keep them serving and supporting as many kids as they can so that the kids have these opportunities. And we really are not asking for more than a couple of hours a month, because we ask to keep it simple, make dinner once a month. That sometimes doesn't sound like something that will change the entire world, but we often say here at Families Together in the Neighbors program, we can't fix everything. We can't fix 20, 30, 40 years of addiction in a family, but we can fix dinner, and we can make sure that that family feels nourished, or that foster family feels nourished and taken care of in a way that keeps them going. I'll share a story about a foster mom that we matched. We've matched 325 foster families, families in general, but many of them being foster families now since I started this about 5 years ago. And what we originally started with was just a very simple program. We just said, hey, I know this foster mom, can someone bring her dinner once a month? And so we did a background check, we did a little bit of training, and this woman, Nicole, she started bringing dinner once a month. She then started having dinner with the family. Over a few months, she started saying, hey, do you want to meet up at the park with the kids? And I can kind of get to know them a little bit more. After 6 or 7 months, they had graduated from our program, and they were, the foster mom was trusting of this volunteer enough that she said, if you want to go and take a nap, this is the volunteer saying this to the foster mom, go take a nap by yourself, single foster mom dealing with a lot of special needs for her child, fighting to make sure that her child got the support she needed, very exhausting job, on top of working full time. And the volunteer said, you go take a nap, I'll take her to the park for an hour just so you can have some quiet time. That is such a gift to a single parent who's just feeling overwhelmed. And so this is really about starting a relationship. This is not about fixing everything. It's not about checking the boxes of a program. It's about what you, the person watching this on No Lake County, thanks to the library, what you can bring to your specific gifts and dreams for childhood, what you can bring to that family. And it's a beautiful way to like get out of our social circles. It's so easy to stay in with everybody that we already know, everyone we've known since we've grown up, especially in Lake County. It's very easy to have these small circles. Let's break them open a little bit. Let's make sure that we can spread the love and bring in more people. So if you're interested, Christy's going to share how to sign up as a volunteer at the end of this. And I want to thank Mitch and Karen. Any last words?
Oh, we're here. So utilize us. We can help serve, and we'll help keep you supported.
Yeah. Thanks, Karen, for sharing your story. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you would like to get involved with Families Together and become a Families Together neighbor for Lake County, you can contact Mitchell DeVito through his email down below or through the link down below to the Lake County Neighbor website. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.